Welcome to episode 150 of the omnigamersclub podcast, the podcast for games on all platforms, including Pictonico. I am Daniel Winter.
And I'm Mark USA. How are you doing, Daniel?
Good day. I got my summer trim just in time for the downpour of rain we've had here. Not very summer-like here in Vancouver.
I mean, spring is always up and down, but that trend has been continuing into, what is reasonably the beginning of summer.
January returns.
Yeah, it's true. You can't ever tell when it's going to be dripping, soaking, cold, wet, or hot as all heck. That's life in Vancouver for you.
They don't call it Rain City for nothing.
Here
How are
we
you?
go. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Dealt with a little bit of illness this past week, like I said. Mostly recovered from that, and then just a real mix. I got some new hardware in, which I'm a little excited about. I'm not going to talk about that today, but yeah, mostly excited about vacation that's coming up. Maybe, just maybe, this might be the last episode before our summer break, so we'll figure that out. And then this episode, I guess, is going to be a little bit light because I haven't played a lot new recently, and we're just trying to sort of figure out what's happening for the summer.
Just we're cleaning up a little spring clean before we go into the summer hiatus. I think I've been pretty busy with some family commitments, and yeah, it's been tough to get some games happening. But there's still lots to talk about, and it's a bit of a not quite a milestone, a sort of a marker on the way to a milestone. I guess 150 there.
That's right. This is episode 150, and it's also right about the middle of the year.
Yes.
So I think we're going to use this as an opportunity to do a little bit of a mid-year recap, and also starting to brainstorm and solidify some plans for the rest of 2026.
Excellent.
So if that sounds good with you, Daniel, shall we talk about some appetizer material? What's been new in your book?
Yeah, I mean, this week has been pretty oversaturated with news from Summer Games Fest and the satellite events. That being the sort of the Jeff Keighley show. I guess it's every 6 months we've got Game Awards at the end of the year. But basically the trailer fest from that show and the various other press conferences from some of them were like publisher or like platform led, like the Sony State of Play. Some were more thematic groupings, like the Wholesome Direct, for example. So I watched of those. I mean, I guess the Sony State of Play, the Summer Games Fest Prime show, Day of the Devs, which is a lot of indie games that being hosted by Double Fine, and also Wholesome Direct. Did you watch any of these, Mark?
I watched a little bit of the Sony stuff. I have the Microsoft stuff booked. Now, we're not promoting Microsoft because of the BDS, but I'm still, like I've said in the past, I have a personal history with Microsoft as a brand, so I'm just curious about their direction and where they go. And yeah, I'm sure I'll hear little smatterings of the indie stuff. I kind of follow indie stuff most of all anyways throughout the year, so I will most likely try and catch up on the indie news.
Excellent. Yeah, I didn't watch the Microsoft press conferences for BDS reasons, but there were a lot of games included in that. It seems that will be multi-platform, aren't being published by Microsoft. Persona 6 got announced apparently for one. So I think the less said about the show, the better. It's hard not to be increasingly cynical about these things, and especially on the AAA side, I guess. Sega announced various games that being listed on Steam already have AI disclosures listed, like the Tomb Raider game and Crazy Taxi. So remaking old games, they want you to pay more money to remake old games with AI, basically. So yeah, not particularly pleased with the directions there. But there were some gems hidden amongst that, especially on the indie side. I mean, you mentioned the Sony State of Play. We both got to enjoy the being seen with the Vancouver icon, the Sulphur Pit. Or the Sulphur Pile, I should say.
I don't know that one myself. What is that in reference to?
Well, if you look towards North Vancouver, there's the giant yellow pile of sulfur that you will see.
Oh, sulfur. I heard you say silver, and I was wondering what that was referring to. Oh, yes, I remember seeing that growing up all my childhood, and definitely now that I moved over to the other side of the Burrard Inlet, I see it even clearer.
That was in the Wolverine game, to be clear. Which I mean, looks cool. I guess I mean, these AAA games. It's just the same formula applied with a new skin. Essentially, it's hard to be too excited about those right now, but people seem to like it. Otherwise, Rayman Legends. That's the other thing I want to be curmudgeonly about. Is Rayman Legends is getting a remake. I can't remember the subtitle, but it's like rather than that 2D animation style that was so stylish and unique in the original, they're now just using the generic 3D CG animation. So it's lost most of its identity from what I've seen of it. And Rayman talks now and it's full of Marvel quips. So again, you don't need to remake old games. The old games still there, they're still fine.
Yeah, I saw a brief teaser trailer of that, and the 3D animation looks slick as heck. So I'm
It
sure
looks
that
solid. It just looks like every other 3D animated game.
yeah, it's true. The only new-ish game that I'm excited about that had follow-up material, it wasn't announced at Summer Games Fest, but is the upcoming RGG sort of prequel, Yakuza prequel of sorts, is the
Oh,
Stranger Than Heaven, which looks like a real mixed bag. RGG being a Sega studio. I don't know if they have any AI disclosure
well,
stuff happening.
not without its controversy with Tupac being revealed. I think there may have been some AI involved with that, but aside from that, the morality of using a dead person's likeness.
I didn't know that there was Tupac involved. I know that Snoop Dogg is
Well,
involved.
yeah.
He's a main character, as is J-pop singer Adu, and also I believe American singer Tori Kelly is in it as
Huh.
well, who I like some of her music. So,
Definitely going for some weird anachronistic vibe with that. I can't quite get a read on it.
well, yeah, I mean, you could say it's anachronistic. It's just contemporary musicians
Playing
playing.
themselves though, right?
I don't know if they are playing themselves. Like they have different character names. Snoop
Oh, okay.
Dogg's is called Orpheus, for instance, and Tori Kelly is called Susie Day. So I don't think they are playing
Hmm.
themselves. I think they are playing Americans, a lot of them, and there's some crossover. Like some of the main characters are like American Japanese.
Okay. I just
So
assumed, why would you have Tupac if you're not having him play himself? That seems absurd, to be honest. I don't know what's going on there.
who knows? But they're doing it all over with likenesses of dead people. It's really coming in the AI era. Anyways, let's move on to other nightmarish topics.
Yeah, well, the one AAA game I will allow myself to be excited about is Alien Isolation 2. Got a new trailer, not much revealed about that. And it is published by Sega, so again, a little wary there. But it's been 12 years since the last one. I'm about ready for another one of those games.
Yeah, Sega is a studio of real interest because obviously they have their retro chops, long history. They've always had American and Japanese crossover material. Sega does stand for service games after all. They were entertainment machines meant for American servicemen during World War II and thereafter. It was their origin, and then obviously the Sega Genesis era, popularity over on this side much more than in Japan, and then the later years, and then the crossover by getting American strategy game devs and studios involved, like the Total War people. So it's a very interesting evolution to that publisher, let's just say.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Sega, one last time, threw out a couple of indie highlights. Um, the Cuphead studio. I'm blanking on the name. It's about its initials MDHR. I want to say. Have announced there's two games. They're making a Cuphead follow-up, but also a spin-off game called Mighty Cuphead Adventures, which is being designed with the assembly language of the Sega Genesis, and I believe they will be selling like Sega Genesis cartridges.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, we talked before about having games coming out on Game Boy cartridges, Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. That would be super cool.
There was just a bundle actually. I have to try and find the link. That was like a bundle of 30 games that had been designed for the NES. That were like you could emulate with that system.
Yeah, it's FPGA, I think it is. It's like modern hardware that doesn't emulate but actually replicates the old circuitry is a real thing. So you could probably find a brand new machine that will play a brand new game using that ancient architecture. Wild
People still
times.
extracting efficiency out of technology 40 years later.
Cool. I have some things to talk about that's timely. We weren't able to play this game, but we were sent a PDF, and I dutifully read it. I think the plans were to coordinate this with the launch of, basically Pride, because that season is upon us. And so now's the only time I could possibly mention it. So Bright Bard Games sent us a PDF of their brief one-shot based RPG called L.G.B.T. Or what is the acronym? Let me figure it out. It's called Longsword,
Longsword.
Glock,
Okay.
Bat, and Taser, if you want to use another name. And the author is John Boyle, artist Brie Denan. And I did read through it. It does seem interesting, and I thought quite familiar in a lot of ways to some games I've been playing recently. I just read now, after having read all of the book, the 40-page book, by the way, it's not that long, that it is based on the Rowan Rook and Descartes' Havoc engine. And the Havoc engine is the basis of that TTRPG I ran recently, Eat the Reich. So,
okay.
of course, it would be familiar to me. So this game is supposed to be for 2 to 5 players. You will need a GM. So it is, GM-led. And the basic premise of it is this is intended to be, a one-shot system, like Eat the Reich. But the theme is that there are some shenanigans all centered around Pride. So, Pride Day, Pride Week, a Pride event, something leading up to it. So you are, fun, glorious, colorful characters, and then some sort of shenanigans go down. Someone is trying to give you a bad day or a bad time, and you're trying to overcome it and let the party go on. So it is all in the interest of fun, and the systems were pretty interesting as well. I don't recall exactly the terms they used for it, but they were basically like these hazards. I think it was one of them, obstacles and hazards. It's a really interesting system. It's making me think a lot about just like the sheer nature of TTRPGs in general, having conversations with my neighbor group, because my neighbor was basically trying to homebrew their own system based on this very same Havoc engine that we experienced having played Eat the Reich. And another one of the players at the table was complaining that they felt it was a little bit too by the numbers and mechanical. And I countered, well, it was not D&D by the numbers and mechanicals. Let's talk about hit points and whacking NPCs over the head until you bring their hit points down to 0. What could be more mechanical than that? So there was some debate to be had there. But this system is really, I think, really intended to be light. Like, you do have the gender identities, LGBT, but it's not intended to be limiting or restrained
Those aren't
to
classes
that.
in the game.
They are classes in the game.
Okay.
But they aren't intended to be one-to-one direct with the gender identities.
Right.
They're more
fluid,
like
shall we say?
in the spirit of. So basically, they have L, which is representing longsword, and this is for versatility and flexibility, for instance. And Glock, or G, is panache and style. Bat is insight, candor, or might. And Taser is creativity, wits, and conviction. So these are kind of like personality types, and you can have strengths in each. I think these are, rather than classes, these are more like your attributes.
Okay. So you can have presence in each of those.
Exactly. So you're not going to be like 0. You're not going to be only playing in one of those spheres. You're going to have a range of stats in each of those. And basically, you add that to equipment, other scenarios that are to your advantage, and that determines how many D6s you roll. So, of course, I've been playing a lot of D6 games recently, Eat the Reich included, and they're just so, fast and quick and easy to run. So that I appreciate. And usually people have a lot of D6s kicking around from other board games, for instance. So that's really nice. And basically, there's a lot of pre-generation as well. I noticed that the like Wildsea, the characters have a personal objective, and because this is a one shot, this is not going to be a long term thing. It's
Mm.
not going to be something you're going to work on session after session and week after week. This is something you're going to want to achieve for your character within the one shot or the two shots that you're going to have um, this game run for. And, because this is going to be centered around Pride, I can imagine that you'll want to set your friends up for a session of this after the Pride Parade or something like that, or even at a get together at a friend's house after that, have some drinks and have this as a way to wind down or maybe wind up if you're really into playing games. Really light, pick up and play, even lighter than Ether Reich. Ether Reich is heavy subject wise, but not that heavy mechanically speaking. But even that book is still like, I don't know, something to the extent of 80 to 100 pages. This is a quick 40, and the pages are very colorful, as you might imagine. Has the rainbow color palette spread throughout. It has not a lot of art, but at least like one notable piece on most every other page, usually like a weapon. Oh, one fun thing about this game is the kind of the narrative spirit of it. They brought up a direct reference to a matter of inspiration. This is a topic we covered the other day when we were talking about TTRPGs being much more open with their subject matter of inspiration. The author brought up the comic book Scott Pilgrim, which I've read
Yeah,
through the entire original run of,
just have that vibe.
and
Yes.
they brought up the subject of kind of like hammer space, which is this concept that exists kind of like from the beginning of animation, really, but gets tied to a lot of like anime, comedy anime as well. Basically, like it's heightened, right? These scenarios are going down, and characters, when they're feeling really inspired or angry or in the mood, are able to like pull a giant mallet out of thin air to whack their friend who just insulted them or something like that. And this is very much in the spirit of that, just like Scott Pilgrim when he has a personal realization and he pulls the sword out of his chest or something to that effect. Everything, the action and those magical abilities are tied to the drama. So this is very much in that spirit, and the hijinks are going to be, as intense as you want them to be. I kind of think like Scooby Doo level. There's going to be some humor, but there's going to be maybe some spooks or frights if you want it to be tied to that, and maybe there might be some, fighting for a good cause. For instance, maybe for instance, they have about half of the short book is examples of scenarios that you can run. So I think one of the examples that they have later on is that maybe you want to kick the what is it, the rainbow corporations trying to infringe upon pride parades. All these banks and the here locally in Vancouver, the Vancouver Police Department loves to get in on the Pride Parade action, and we don't love that necessarily showing up all the time. Nor do we want TD Bank, spreading their green flags over top of the rainbow flags of the rest of Pride. So ultimately really fun, really short, and intended to be just for a one shot. So I think it's a really user friendly book, and I think it would probably help to have somebody that's at least TTRPG knowledgeable of at least one other system, so that they can help translate some of the concepts. Maybe they can stand in and be the GM and run the system. But in terms of the mechanics, it could not be simpler, and you don't need to bring a lot of prep into this to have a fun or funny experience. So looks pretty good to me, But that's why we're bringing up in the appetizers, because we haven't tried this, but you know, I totally understand and get it, especially coming from a familiar system like Ether Reich.
Yeah, I didn't read this myself. Long story short, I had some technical difficulties there, but I was going to ask like what sort of friction obstacles you're facing here, because I mean, releasing during Pride Month and looking at the sort of visual design here, I'm assuming this is largely about pride and empowerment rather than getting pulled down by those sort of heavy themes. It's more about again being empowered and exploring that queer joy, I guess. And similar to a previous game from this designer, Axolotl with a Gun, which I had also similarly read through previously, and it was about sort of violent retribution on I think it was more of a sort of a climate angle, if I recall correctly, and like robots and things, and again empowering you, especially in a one shot, to sort of fulfill that cathartic sense, I guess. And as you said, you're setting up character based goals, so in a one shot, it's a good sense to build in that sort of setup and payoff, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's as light or as heavy as you want it to be, because it's very, very rules light and loose. So, for instance, they recommend having 6 scenes in a session. So those scenes are intended to be really fast. So here's an example of the example I'm showing up. It's perhaps doesn't show so well on the screen, but the example says decorpo your local pride event. So the scenes are as simple as the genre is punk slice of life. Recommended hazards are, mall cop with delusion of grandeur, bunch of rent-a-cops, greedy city council members, automated security system example. So this is all what I mean in the sense of like Scooby-Doo type hazards that you might run into. And the first example is pilfer the plans, steal the corporation sponsors plans for that event. Second scene is, rally the queer business owners, get them on your side so you can do a little social role playing there. Scene 3 is sabotage the corpos, so bring the action to them, maybe destroy or some of their parade floats that you might be having. Scene 4, sneak the local business owners in, so maybe replace the big corpos with local LGBTQ plus, booksellers, for instance. Scene 5, repel the rent-a-cops, and then scene 6 is an epilogue, just enjoy Pride. So it could be as simple as that. It's just a nice little arc, and probably spends like half an hour on each scene. The structure is very clean and straightforward, and I think kind of bulletproof, unless you have a group that's just not willing to kind of play ball. That's kind of the only danger I can foresee running this.
Is there any advice in there for approaching this as an ally? I guess. I mean, personally, speaking as a cis white man, I'd reluctant approaching this sort of thing as appropriating queer culture, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I could totally understand that. I mean, that's a challenge when you can run all sorts of systems, right? Like there's systems like the Legend of the Five Rings or whatever, where you all have to be mystical Asians or something like that. Or what's the one with the Coyote and Crow?
Yes.
That's the cyberpunk.
It's the indigenous cyberpunk, yeah.
Indigenous cyberpunk. I think I can't speak as a representative of those groups because I'm also cis and male, but I think you should act respectful, and maybe you play the allies, and of course include your friends and neighbors who are representative of the LGBTQIA2S plus community as possible. Of course, it's a pride celebration, so of course you'd invite them.
Support roles important in every dungeon crawler.
Yeah, but I don't see why the party can't be, members of the representative community and allies as well, because you're just like supposed to be friends hanging out and sticking it to the man. So I think that's probably the best way to handle it.
Excellent. So it's live on BackerKit right now, I believe.
Yeah, that's right, and we'll share a link to that. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get it to the table in advance, but we have a lot of other TTRPGs going on.
Excellent. Well, I think I will leave it there for the appetizer today. Lots to talk about in the main course.
Right. All right. Let's switch gears and talk about the main course. Although we're not going to have our usual main course topic about talking about one big game, I don't think. We're going to kind of be doing a bit of a grab bag.
Yeah, a bit of a retrospective and looking forward, I guess, to the future and what our plans are, personally and for the podcast.
Right. So how do you want to handle this? You want to talk about like the games that you've enjoyed or kind of stuck with you over the past 6 months?
I mean, I've been thinking of going by genre, like just do video games first and jump between platforms from there, I guess.
All right. So we'll go with flow. Maybe Daniel, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so in terms of video games, a couple of highlights from this year so far. When I was playing right at the year's turn, I think I just missed out on talking about it in our sort of year of end podcast, is Baby Steps, a game that really redefined a sense of achievements in game and what you, sort of the intrinsic sense of value you get out of challenging yourself in these games and exploring themes of toxic masculinity. Really fascinating game. About just it's from Bennett Foddy, which is about largely weird walking physics, essentially. So it is a difficult game, but absolutely worth it for the writing and the themes that he's exploring there. Many Nights a Whisper, a really short game you can play in like 1 90-minute sitting, basically. Fresh in my mind because I just listened to an episode from Tales from the Backlog, just put out an excellent episode on that, and it was a fascinating exploration of sort of having godlike powers and what you would do with that. Like you're basically in a position to fulfill wishes, and what wishes would you accepts, like exploring senses of selfishness and morality, and what right do you have to change the world in that image, basically. So yeah, really cool. Memories in Orbit, a really excellent, pretty prototypical Metroidvania, but did that formula really well.
Nice. You mentioned a Metroidvania. Of course, that's kind of our dominant genre of the first 6 months. We've been kind of joking that this is the 2026 year of Metroidvania, year of the non-linear exploration action game.
Such action platformer. What do we call it?
There's so many terms that you could apply to that burgeoning genre. And I look back on the last few episodes of the year, which I did just before recording this, and so many of my examples either touched upon or entirely focused on Metroidvania games. So, of course, I'll just mention them. Of course, we did Metroid Prime Remastered, played The Night Witch, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, even more recent ones like Crow Country, more of a Resident Evil like, but definitely has that game already has its roots in Metroidvania. I think some titles that stood out to me, so probably the ones that stood out the most to me in those in that Metroidvania genre would be the aforementioned Crow Country. I think it was short, effective, really, really cute, and it was just kind of like what I was wanting, but I didn't know how to phrase it, is like a cute little send-up, you know? I like Resident Evil games, especially the early ones, but they just don't make those anymore. Like, the new ones are cool, but different. The middle ones are these weird kind of like action blockbuster
Schlocky
movie
pulp.
yeah, and those old slow tedious ones are kind of like unplayable in their old state. The remakes were kind of a good middle ground. I really like the Resident Evil 2 remake for instance. I haven't gotten up to 4 yet, but I hear that one went over really well.
Two was an excellent sort of opening act, and then just keeps on going and layering on more and more. Like it just jumps the shark or the sewer alligator, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas Crow Country was a really nice condensed packaged experience, like in a short time frame, but dense with all that flavor without overstaying its welcome.
Exactly, yeah. It captures the spirit of that really well. Speaking of Resident Evil, I did recall that there was an announcement that they're doing not Code Veronica, but Resident Evil Veronica, which is a return to the kind of mainline story of that series featuring Claire Redfield, apparently. So not a lot to go on there other than I saw the trailer and it
Yeah.
looks pretty
I'm
good.
not familiar with that storyline.
Right. So Coral Country was a highlight to me. I mentioned Zelda as well. Zelda, we had a kind of a Zelda mini episode covering a few different entries, but the one that stood out the most to me, well, two really stood out. Link's Awakening on GBC, Game Boy Color. I think it's really solid. Totally different, but really solid in its own way, and also fairly short. I haven't finished it, but I should go back, and it features the direction of, can't remember the gentleman that we featured the other day
Oh, yeah.
from Nintendo who retired recently. I should complete that in honor of his retirement. But the game that really stood out to me and that I really need to go back and finish is Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, the one for the Switch, in that kind of top-down 2D style that I really enjoy, and trying some hints at the new school with a little bit of creative solutions using the kind of the magical generation, using Princess Zelda's magical scepter to recreate many objects in the world and come up with creative solutions to that. I enjoyed what I played of it so far, and it's an honest to goodness Metroidvania, in my opinion. And of course, I think to me, if we talk about mainline Metroid as a series, I think I found a game that I like even better than Metroid Prime. And I like Metroid Prime. I liked Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm glad I finished it. The last boss is super annoying, but I'm glad I finished it after
Approaching the
all
end of
these
that now
years.
myself. I just got back from the library.
Oh, cool. I've been repeatedly taking out Metroid Dread.
Hmm.
And last time I finished it, I was at a annoying point. Typically, it's with one of these bosses. I'll try it the fifth time. Try it the sixth time. I tried it the seventh time and died. And then my rental period at the library runs out, and I return it in frustration. And I kind of dread, quote unquote, taking it out from the library again. It's going to be, a few more weeks until I get it, of course, because
You
other
lose that sort
people.
of mental mind map, I guess.
Right, but I do have that mental weight on top of me thinking, you had such a hard time beating that boss, and then I pick it back up and I play it for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more times, attempting at the boss, and then I was able to beat it, and you just feel that elation. You feel so good that you stuck with it. You tried beating that boss 20 times and you finally made it, and just like the tips and advice of that game says, there's no attack that you can't dodge. There's no boss that you can't beat given enough patience. So that game impressed me. I think it's honestly better than Metroid Prime Remastered in so many ways. I like how deep it is, and the backtracking, which we complained a lot in Metroid Prime, the backtracking is actually really rewarding in this game because they do something which Prime fails to do. They don't just make you retread areas, they recontextualize areas. So a lot of the abilities, well, first of all, there's various environmental changes that occur that will totally alter a place that was familiar to you.
Rather than
So
tapping out your abilities, it's about the world and how you interact with it.
that's right.
Okay.
So there'll be situations where, for instance, there's high heat or deep cold. So, as in any Metroid game, Samus, when she's in her weakened state with all of her power-ups taken away, she's vulnerable to high heat and deep cold. And those environments take advantage of that. So there's areas that you can go into, but they quickly sap away at your health. And of course, you gain power-ups to overcome those. Those aren't the sort of environmental changes I'm talking about. Those definitely exist, but those are kind of like cheap, right? Like, yeah, high heat, deep cold. Those are kind of like mirror images of each other. They're not that inspirational in terms of a new mechanism. But no, they have situations where they have cold, deep cold, and the cold does other things like they will freeze up certain doors. So they entirely alter an area that you've been to before by making a certain number of the doors and access panels into areas blocked, which means you have to find alternative routes. Furthermore, the high heat areas, they have other doors and mechanisms powered by the lava. So if you unleash some of the heat, that might alter some of the pathways as well. And then they have entirely flooded areas that have water, and then at certain points you can remove the water, which totally alters the way that the platforming works. There's these sort of like floating pontoons in some areas as well that react when you remove water or add it to certain areas. And I just feel like the design space is way broader. The number of power-ups is way larger, and the variety of power-ups is really, really creative, featuring a lot of power-ups that are I've never seen before in a Metroid game. It is 2D, so I really like that style. But there are these kind of strong segments that are 2.5D, especially the ones against the ominous Emmys or EMMI robots that roam throughout various parts of the world. And even those are interesting. In the previous time I mentioned Metroid Dread, I said that the Emmys added a great sense of dread, literally, that's why it's called that, to certain sections, but it was kind of overwhelming, especially early on. It's just a totally distinct curveball to 2D Metroid games that you never really had before. It was kind of like when they added the Nemesis to the early Resident Evil games, where the guy would stalk you
Mr.
from room
X,
to
or
room.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was a totally important and necessary addition to the kind of the pacing and the drama of those games. But it's a shocker. It's a shocker coming from the old school versions. This game is really cool. There are many of them. They exist throughout the various areas of the world. But let's just say that they come and they go. So there's long periods of time where they go away, and then sometimes they come back, and you're
Fairly
like,
scripted moments when you're experiencing them.
exactly. But the design space of those is really, really nice as well. You get this repetition. It's basically you enter a new area. It is dominated by the Emmys. The Emmys have high mobility, so they can crawl up walls. They can sneak between small areas. They can chase you down pretty well. And if they catch you, you have one chance to escape. There's a counter move that's very, very crucial in this game. And if you see a light flash, and it's not just the Emmys, it could be bosses as well. If you see a golden light flash, if you press the counter move at just the right time, you can evade and you can escape from the Emmys. So that's really, really cool that that exists. But basically, you enter the Emmy dominated space. Generally, the doors are locked. And you're sort of a mouse in their maze, in that cat's maze. And you have to unlock this superpowered weapon, which has to be charged, which requires a specific amount of time to wear down their overshield, charge up the primary beam after the overshield is depleted, and then unleash it after a long charging period. The tension, the tension and the drama and the interplay there with the high action and the kind of the pausing to await the oppressive hunter hunting you down. It's just so kind of delicious and captivating. And they've just kind of designed that to a T. I think it's fantastic. And it's a really refreshing take over the kind of traditional, kind of played out 2D Metroidvania boss, which we've all fought with. Like, those still exist. But the Emmys are really refreshing. So, yeah, for that reason, all those reasons I mentioned, I think Metroid Dread is far superior to Metroid Prime Remastered, in my humble opinion, or much more to my preference. And it's a game that keeps giving, from what I can tell. And it's the highlight game for me of 2026, even though it's not from 2026. It's my highlight Metroid game of this year of Metroidvania.
So I'm hoping to get back to that at some point. Still working through the Metroid series. Like I'm wrapping up Metroid Prime right now. Castlevania I'm still working through as well with the I spoke about Castlevania 64 last episode, which I think I mentioned is also has some like Resident Evil analogs there. There's a lot of cross pollination. And Zelda also still working through. I just wrapped replay of Ocarina of Time. So at some point soon I'll start up a replay of Majora's Mask. And then finally getting to those games that I hadn't played, like the Minish Cap and Oracle of Seasons, which I think were actually Capcom developed.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think both, or one, or whatever, are on Nintendo on Classics, right?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Nintendo Classics has surprising number of games, especially a lot of these Zeldas and a lot of these Metroids are on there. So
And Donkey Kong 64 just got added as well, which I discussed the Donkey Kong Country games that I played earlier this year. So I've been holding out an easy way to play the 64 one, so I'll be getting to that soon.
Speaking of future plans for the year of Metroidvania is I want to play Wind Waker at last. I played Wind Waker when it was live on the GameCube, but it didn't really sink its teeth into me. But I saw that it was doing interesting stuff, especially with the ship and the seafaring. And I have a Switch 2, and I have Nintendo Switch Online, so there's no reason I shouldn't play it. And it seems to run really well and look really great on the Switch 2, so that's I bookmarked that for plans for the rest of the year.
I actually have a Wii U version. Like they remastered it on Wii U with some extra features, and so now I'm not sure if the easiest way is to play the Switch online, but the Wii U has some extra features, but it's extra more hassle to turn that on now. I'm not sure which way I'll go. I did finish that back in the day. I played a little bit of it with my daughter a couple of years ago, but didn't finish that playthrough. I'll get back to it hopefully soon.
Yeah, there are some gaps in my Zelda history, like what was it? Spirit Tracks. And Twilight Princess, I kind of missed out on that
I want
generation.
to go back to as well. Yeah, I don't really remember much of that. Skyward Sword, I didn't think was particularly strong.
Good to know. All right, yeah, that basically sums it up for me for video games. Is definitely Metroidvanias are top of mind, and something about it just feels right in this year of kind of news bummers and political turmoil and things like that. It's like
how is looking to the past.
It's comfort food, right? Yeah. This is the year of looking back on retro trends and things that are comforting to me. So, I don't know. Makes me feel good in these times of uncertainty.
Anything else you're looking forward to trying later on this year?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I kind of need to switch up my gears though. Should we talk about other genres? Like I haven't talked about like the TTRPG highlights of the year for me.
Yeah, we can jump to that.
Yeah. How about yourself? TTRPG highlights for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've played Wildsea, which is leaving a strong impression so far, and Cyberpunk. Other than that, the only one I've really played has been, well, I guess Cloud Empress at TCTC. But we did play Realms of Peril earlier in the year. It was is it West Marches? I think was the sort of structure where this campaign was envisioned as a multiple groups. Might get like a couple dozen people in this sort of broader campaign, and in any given week it might be only 4 or 5 of those people sort of mixing and matching or subgroups within that. Unfortunately, that campaign never really quite got that. Never quite had a large enough group to support that. We had probably 6 people, and 4 in any given week. It was an ambitious experiment, I think, that was fun to see. The system didn't really live up to it for me. That it was just a bit too much crunch, I think, in the hex crawl sort of survival mechanics, I think. So we'd hoped to play that a little bit more and then have a talk about it, and then it sort of fizzled out, unfortunately, before we had a chance to do so. We might get back to it at some point. So I guess that's not a highlight, but it was a fun experiment, I will say, trying a new format in TTRPGs.
Right. So I was involved in some of those. I played a little bit of Realms in Peril. One session, so I literally do not have enough background to give an opinion on that. But I played Wild Sea with you, still enjoying that. I did did I? I haven't done a feature on Etherite, right?
I don't
I
think so.
mentioned
You've
it.
discussed it various times.
I mentioned it. But I haven't done a full feature on that, so I'll hold that. But that's definitely, I'll just say, it is a highlight for me. What a cool system. Other highlights are Cyberpunk, like you said. We did a whole episode on that. One system that you and I both played that we did not cover in depth is our. We did a one shot of Mothership.
Mothership? I thought we did talk about that. Oh, we intended to. Yes, I knew I was forgetting something. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't cover it in depth. It is the same underlying system as Cloud Empress, so maybe we'll do like a Mothership Cloud Empress combo.
And I think I talked about it when I did a one shot last year as well.
Yeah, but I think that game is really got something special to it. You know, some systems kind of feel like whatever. This one does feel like it has some kind of secret sauce to it. I guess that's why it's so popular and a buzzworthy system. And the GM who is the wife or partner of
Noe.
Noe,
Yeah,
who
I'm
was a
blanking on the
guest.
name.
Yeah, we'll plug it in the links there. She was a great facilitator for that, and just like fun action and cool setting. Basically, aliens with the serial numbers filed off, but a little bit more, maybe a little bit more light humor potentially integrated in there. So that was a highlight for me. And yeah, I guess I'll just say this half year so far has been um, just fun trying new stuff and doing more one shots. I think one shots are amazing, and doing 2 or 3 4 shots, short mini campaigns is amazing too. Not every group has to be like a 40 year campaign to the death. You can just play a system for a little while and enjoy it. Enjoy the differences of it. You
Mm,
know?
mm. Yeah, I mean, I've been reading through a few games. I don't think I'm quite ready to GM yet, but I do want to experiment with maybe some like GM-less games and that sort of thing. I've been reading through one called Electrum Archives, which isn't GM-less to be clear, but it's no surprise it cites Morrowind as one of its key inspirations, and it's kind of on my mood board alongside Cloud Empress and Ultraviolet Grasslands. I'd love to find a way to like merge those in some ways, but like it's only ever going to happen if I'm the GM. I need to work towards that. So maybe if I can facilitate some GM-less games, I think is a good way of getting some practice in. I'm looking at Home, the map making mech game. And Beak, Feather, and Bone, sort of a map building, coloring game, sort of the factions of this city. So two that I've experimented to. I mean to experiment with. Maybe try and get a group at our local game store sometime soon.
Okay. Why don't you and I plug this into our future goals? Is you and I should play the a system that I played in the past, but is very, very flexible. It's called Iron Sworn or
Yes.
Iron Sworn Star Forged. I have some print books for those, and I have all the PDFs for those. And those two systems, which are essentially the same system, except one is more kind of swords and boards, and the other one is more starfaring, futuristic, which we like both of those genres. They are soloable GM-less or multiplayer GM-less or GM facilitator led. And I have done a one-shot facilitator-led session of Starforged at TCTC. I think it was it this year? It was the previous year, I think. And I really enjoyed that. And that game is really, really cool. It has like a lot of prompts built in. So I think you and I could probably really enjoy our time playing that and not have either of us GM, just kind of tackle it. We'll play the party, or maybe we'll invite a third person, and we can tackle it together, GM-less, and see how it goes.
Yeah, a system's definitely intrigued me. It's meaning to find a way to check that out.
Yeah, and if we play it GM-less, then you would get comfortable with the system, and maybe that will kind of ease you into GMing it
Excellent.
in the future.
Very cool. Actually, the one other game I've been meaning to try quickly, Bonds Between, which is a duo game about the sort of dragons, and it's a bit of an artifact game as well, based around a deck of cards and the way you're manipulating that. But I mean, to take a look at it to see if it'd be appropriate for my daughter who's in a dragon-loving phase, or otherwise just playing with a friend, perhaps yourself. But I believe that was actually John Boyle was involved in that, if not the writer or one of the writers, perhaps.
Yep, John Boyle, author of L.G.B.T, the TTRPG from earlier. Okay, so I think that's a good coverage of TTRPGs. Shall we talk about board games?
Yeah, not as much to say about that as I'd like, perhaps, as we've stated before. It's a bit of a quiet year in board games. My gaming group has had a few wrenches thrown in it one way or another, shall we say. Need to find a new solution for that, I think. But I have definitely had a few highlights this year. I mean, I will say, like, I also not able to lean on conventions as much as I'd like to, is to sort of pick up the slack there. And the local conventions I'm now helping at, so don't get to play games, unfortunately. But a couple of highlights that I have played, Cozy Stickerville, sort of a campaign game that we just blasted through in a couple of nights. You basically placing down stickers to build out a town. I've discussed that on a previous episode. Go listen to that. But really, it is cozy. It's in the title, but it just had an excellent sense of investment and drawing you in, but like letting each player have their own little levers to pull on and experiment with, and really fun little sandbox that there. Sweetlands, I have played half of a game before we ran out of time, but I really want to get back to that at some point. Reminded me of what I like from like Terraforming Mars and Terra Mystica and a few other Euro games that I'd like to explore more and see how it evolves that formula. And this last week, I played a game called Nature, one of my favorite games, Oceans, which is based on evolution. It has a third evolution now called Nature. So the first game of that left a really strong impression. It's like this sort of arms warfare. It's this arms race of having these species that you're evolving and equipping traits to sort of outlast and outlive the your opponent's creatures, basically. So I only played the base game of that. It has several modules that I'm keen to add on and see how that evolves the system. But strong impression from Nature. Speaking of creatures, are you having some trouble over there, Mark?
Yeah, sorry, I'm being attacked by a fuzzy beast right now. I think board games is an area where I've been lacking this year. I'm free to admit it. I've stated in the past that I have some concerns. I have some conflicts with the video game industry and the board game industry. I not liking the directions where either industries are going. And it seems like a lot of the kind of consolidation that's happening in both those realms have hurt the industry at large. And it's been felt even harder in the tabletop space than in video games because, consolidation was not new in video games, but it definitely was new in the tabletop space.
In both those spaces, we've seen this real loss of the middle. And like it's now AAA and indie. The difficulty with board games is indie is so hard to get your hands on. Like you have to be at the indie markets. The physical, those physical constraints have so much issues with getting your hands on these games. So if it's not the AAA or the big Kickstarter boxes and the indie stuff, there's not a lot in between. I mean, obviously there is, but it's just harder to get out there and to be excited about it these days.
Yeah, and I think that unlike video games, where Kickstarters and crowdfunding certainly did have an impact, it felt like the industry for board games and tabletop just was so interlinked with crowdfunding and this kind of like hype cycle FOMO and these kind of overwrought backer bonus, what deluxe editions, super uber deluxe editions, and this sort of market of $500 packages for a game that you won't see for 2-3 years, that probably a lot of people, and I see it all the time, like end up selling right away after they receive them and play them once. Those were all directions that just kind of made me sick to the stomach, and definitely did worse things to my pocketbook. It didn't do anything to my pocketbook because I didn't succumb to those. It just kind of sent me in the opposite direction. And the thing about me and games, both video and tabletop, is that I don't mind not playing the new stuff. I don't mind playing the old stuff. And with board games, I only have so much time and mental space that I'm really happy just playing old games. My highlights of this past year have been playing games that are not new at all. There's the annual Eclipse session that we have for your birthday every year,
Yes.
which is definitely a highlight. Some of the most enjoyable board game sessions I've had, of the very few that I've had this year, are just playing with my neighbors. If we can't get an RPG going that week, I brought Quest for El Dorado or the Quacks, like the box behind you, the previous edition, Quacks of Quedlinburg, I should say, which is always a hit, but I hadn't played in a while. I brought local fave Steam Up to my neighbor's place as well, and we played that. I introduced that to them. Those are all such solid games which I hadn't played in a while, and after I played them, everyone had a blast, and I thought to myself, why haven't I played these? So I guess that's my realization, is that I don't like the direction that the board game industry is heading and has headed to. Maybe it's going to bounce back and go in a good direction, but that's why I haven't been playing as many board games.
I mean,
And
it feels like the bubble's been bursting for years now. I mean, Simon, who arguably is like started the whole AAA-ification of the board game crowdfunding space, is basically collapsing right now. I mean, there are certainly plenty of others willing to pick up the pieces there, though.
yeah, that's right. And the other realization I have is more personal in myself. Is just like how I spend my time. Is pre-pandemic, I had 1 or 2 regular game nights, and I was playing games every week. I had a game, playing companions that I enjoyed spending time with, and I just had it in my schedule. This is a me time, and I'm gonna make it happen. And this past year, I've definitely done that, but for TTRPGs. And that's why I'm getting to play all these TTRPGs, which I don't regret, but I haven't set up a time for myself to an equivalent time to play board games. And a lot of this is personal. I feel guilt if I spend too much time away from, my parent duties.
Our
Parent,
family demands have changed a lot over these years. I mean, we've always said have a balanced diet of gaming, but like the mix of how those fit into our lives has changed. The industries have changed. It's balanced in a different way, shall we say?
right. And, every season brings new challenges. Our kids are of various ages, but, the one thing is true is they're getting older. There's more events that we need to take them to, practices that we need to go
Yep.
to, year-end concerts that we need to go to. So I want to be a good present parent for my kids, and taking 2 nights out of the week for my personal fun times doesn't seem very fair. Even though, like, my wife would probably say, take that time, dude, it's good for you. It's just something psychological in me that I can't make myself do it. So that is a goal I'm setting for myself. I'm going to rebalance the scales a bit. I've been kind of threatening to set up a monthly game night at my housing co-op, which is something, kind of like a 2-for-1. I want to get to know my neighbors a little bit better and have a more closer relationship with my local community. And I have a board game library that's collecting dust of some of those older games that I know well, and I would like to get back to the table. So my hope is that if I can make something happen once or twice a month there, then that will just kind of respark the flame in general. And maybe it will convince me to get back more into newer games and different games that I haven't tried before. And kind of will just like kickstart that side of things internally for me, rather than externally following whatever the latest buzz is.
Yeah, I definitely need to try and explore some sort of more public gaming options as well. But my daughter is approaching a sort of peak gaming age. She's finally, I think that the hold that Pokemon TCG has had on her is finally weakened, so I can start to try her out with some more advanced games now. She can read pretty well now, so the card based games are not really as much of a hurdle. So I've got a few to try. Flamecraft, I think, is the next one to try since she's into dragons right now.
Careful with what you teach your kids, though, because like eventually they'll learn to, go out and hang out with friends of their own, and maybe learn how to drive cars and go off and do their own thing. So, you teach them one thing and they just get all these other ideas in their heads. No, joking aside, I'm kind of reaching the opposite side of that spectrum, is where my kids are growing so old that they have less and less time for their parents. So, that is the flip side. Enjoy that time while you have it.
Absolutely.
And make use of it, definitely. And since my kids are having activities and engagements of their own, I do gain back some of that time for my personal interests. So that's part of rebalancing the scales. So sorry to the listenership that ended up being more of a personal revelations and of my inner psychology, but these are the sort of the reasons why, we play the games we do and we don't play the games that we would like to.
Yeah, I think hopefully taking a break over the summer will give us a chance to recalibrate a little bit and maybe get some more guests on who can cover some of those bases as well, and just find a new schedule and routine that it's been especially with new work commitments, new family commitments, just been scrambling to fit anything else in there has been tricky.
Yeah, and I think that we should also, I think there's goals that we wanted to achieve that we haven't achieved yet. I think we're not looking to quit this show anytime soon, but I think there are still horizons that we can aim towards. For instance, I want to play more interactive fiction, more text adventure games. That's something I really enjoyed in the past.
Yeah, we've discussed various projects like you GMing me through a text adventure or things like that, but we just haven't had time to plan it basically with this weekly schedule.
Right. So that's something I would like to do. Also, we have both at varying times kind of dabbled with tabletop skirmish or strategy games. War games is another word for those.
Core Space is one we've discussed a couple of times.
Exactly. We both have the Core Space, Core
5
Set.
Past 6 from Home.
That we both have books, that book. So those games are begging to be played. One highlight of my year is that I got to play more skirmish games. Mm-hmm. So I played at least 2 sessions of one-page rules. That game is super fun, super easy to play, and it's free. So there's nothing stopping you if you've been interested in starting a skirmish game, and that's something you can do with really anything, with like Lego figures, with action figures you have kicking around the house, or print your own 3D models if you have a 3D printer, or you can just pull out your old Warhammer minis if you have those as well. So I highly recommend that, checking that out. For me personally, I would probably play that anytime anyone asked me to, but also I don't see myself making that becoming my mono game. I don't think it's compelling personally to me enough to play over and over and over and over. But yeah, I could definitely see myself pulling that out once every couple of months.
And so many miniatures games do feel like they're designed to be lifestyle games. Like,
right.
I mean, like your Warhammer and most of those, at least, they're very hard to be casual fans.
Yeah, and I think that's why games that do have a little bit more narrative, like that core space aspect to them, a little bit more like scenario-based games, appeal to me more, and ones that have different genres. Like I prefer sci-fi more than the kind of traditional sword and board fantasy. So certainly Core Space and 5 Parsecs from Home are interesting to me, and those just have like cool. They're just cool packaging. Like Core Space, the box looks great. The 3D terrain looks great. And 5 Parsecs from Home, that digest-sized book, is super fantastic. It looks super nice from, who is it from? Modifius. That's right. It looks really great. So that's something I will add to for the rest of the year plan is I will get Core Space to the table. I'm going to finish painting those figs, which are halfway painted.
I mean, I've barely started. I've primed mine. They've been sitting here for a year, primed basically. So
I got a sad box in my closet right over there with half-painted figures, and I haven't pulled it out. So that's definitely on my plans too. I'll get them done by the end of summer, let's just say. All right, and we'll get it to the table.
Let's do it.
Okay, so that's like a bunch of different gaming genres right there. I think that's probably good for me for a retrospective.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I could easily list a bunch of other things I'm excited to try, but I don't want to cash any checks that I can't pay at this point. Write any checks.
Makes sense. Yeah, don't want to stack too many more things onto our to-do list when we have so much to cover. All right. So just I think a little bit of this is like really minor news. So shall we just say that this is the last episode before the summer break?
I think so. We may be able to squeeze some in. I may try and line up some guests to guest co-host over the summer, or I might just take the break to recalibrate and work on some more longer term plans and projects.
Sounds good. So my my vacation time is strictly from the end of June until the 3rd week of July. So probably we won't see a new episode out until end of July at the earliest, I should think. So that's about 2 months or about 6 or 7 weeks anyways. So that's a decent amount of time, but we just want the listenership out there to know that we haven't given up. This isn't the end of the show. This is a pause, season hiatus, I guess you can call it that. And you can't tell me you don't have a backlog of podcast episodes to listen to.
Exactly, yeah.
Another slight programming change is that we're kind of rethinking the video format of our show. We know that some people, shout out to Dennis, our frequent third guest on the show, they use YouTube as the primary means of watching and or listening to our show. So I don't think we're going to stop entirely, but we may stop putting our ugly mugs on the screen, per se.
Need that.
and no one wants that. No one needs that. And we don't exactly put out, like YouTube-friendly video anyways.
This is not designed for YouTube, yeah. It's just there as a convenience, basically.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's never particularly achieved much in terms of algorithmic success, shall we say. But I know YouTube does have a podcast feature where you can listen to audio podcasts via YouTube. So I think we'll be leaning on that a little more. Just, it's a lot of time to basically edit the podcast twice, which is for admittedly a niche podcast, shall we say. And I have less time right now. I'm sure so do you. So we're just going to recalibrate a bit there and focus on our strengths and just focus on the audio version. But it will be on YouTube in some fashion.
That's right. So it might just be audio only, the wavy line waveform going back and forth. That's about it.
So if you're watching now, enjoy these faces while you can.
Yeah, this will probably be the last one. And who knows what we'll do in the future. TBD on that. Okay, so that's a little programming change. 2 little bits of news there. What do you think, Daniel? Should we move into the dessert?
I think so, yeah.
All right, let's do it. You want to start us off?
So something I meant to mention last week before I got distracted with a movie I'd been watching. I've been reading a lot of comics lately, and one I'd been meaning to check out for a while called Something is Killing the Children, which I finally got around to and didn't really like, to be honest. I tried to dig into why that isn't the case. Just a mix of its sort of schlock and violence and melodrama just didn't really hit for me. But I at Free Comic Book Day happened to pick up an issue from the same writer. That is James Tynion the Fourth, and that's called The Nice House on the Lake. And just from that one issue alone, it really grabbed me. I've been thinking recently about how the difficulty in comics, like how much time do you give them to get good, basically? Like, especially if you're buying single issues, like it's an investment every time to just wait for something to get good. But this one from the get go really grabbed me with its sort of premise. I will say artist is Alvaro Martinez Bueno and colorist Jordi Belair. And so this is a really high concept where the basically 10 friends are invited by a mutual acquaintance to this, lake house for a vacation. They all arrive there to discover that the world has been destroyed, that they are living in this bubble, basically the last haven, and everyone else is dead. But there's this weird sort of mystical mystery going on as well, where they all have like these weird symbols associated with them, and they're discovering the secrets of this house and various the way it works and various mysteries. But the friend that invited them was basically revealed to be an alien or some kind of otherworldly being, shall we say, who his motives are unclear. But it plays through a lot of like weird, really cool horror vibes where like he's sort of warping in and out of existence, or this either as this weird flesh nexus, or like as it looks like oil, like or ink floating in water in this really cool way. And the artwork too is just really strong in this sort of very, very minimalist, like soft lines, minimalist color, but in this really beautiful framing that I really like. And I mean, like I said, there's a lot of mystery in here too, but there's also just a lot of melodrama with the 10 characters, and you explore their backstories and how they knew this character and their relationships with each other. And I've been thinking a lot about like talking recently about the difference between lore and world building and what I value there, and thinking similarly about mysteries and what we really get out of mysteries. Because I'm reminded a lot of Lost, and how, obviously a big mystery box show, people loved theorizing about that, and many people did not like that ending because it like the mystery wasn't paid off right. I'm in the minority of having really enjoyed the Lost finale and how that show wrapped, and this similarly is making me think of like the mysteries are there for the mystery itself and for the theorizing and for in thinking about the concept and what the possibility space rather than the solution. Mysteries, like the solution is always the least interesting part. And so I think this sets up the concepts really successfully, rather than being about the mystery box. It's just asking interesting questions and like, what would you do if you had this ability, or the what if scenarios, essentially, is the most interesting part. And it's only 2 volumes, like 12 issues over 2 volumes, and that's it. So it's really dense. And then has a nice little arc, and really satisfying little spread of nice house on the lake.
That sounds cool. I similarly like mysteries, and I agree with you that I don't need the mysteries spelled out to me. It's okay that some things are just mysterious and not explained. I was reminded of, it sounded like you were talking about strange houses when you were talking about the house. And I was also reminded of that black oil monster that killed Deanna Troi on Star Trek The Next Generation when we were talking about the alien. So maybe it's just a crossover.
Well, funnily enough, what I was thinking of, I just literally last night watched, what was it called? Q... It was a Q episode, the episode where a human woman discovers that she is a Q, and like someone with humanity discovering they have godlike powers and trying to balance, like suddenly you can make anything reality. And this explores some similar concepts there, I will say, from an opposite way almost.
Yeah, I do remember that episode with the young woman.
Yes,
and she kind of comes and potentially abuses her powers and kind of comes to grips with it. That's a theme that will come up again and again, especially in Star Trek Voyager, as we've talked about. Okay, speaking of mysteries, I'm going to also talk about something mysterious, and also in comic book fashion. I'm going to be talking about, and correct me if I've covered this before, I don't remember.
I think so.
It's called Case Closed / Detective Conan, because Case Closed is the English name of this manga. And this is a long-running series, of course, based on the Japanese manga of, I think it's like Mentai Conan or something like that. I don't remember exactly the Japanese title of it, but it's by Aoyama Gosho, author, published by Shogakukan, but released by Viz in English. So, of course, very, very one of the earliest English language manga publishers, and also the publisher of Shonen Jump, but different publisher in Japan. Anyways, this is remarkable for a number of reasons. The first run of Conan started in January 5th, 1994. It's still running.
Wow.
This manga has been running for, yes, over 30 years, and it has a listed volume count of 108. At least according to Wikipedia, where I last checked. So that's 108 trade paperbacks. Very long list. Not as long as, I guess,
One Piece.
One Piece or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But still, kind of ridiculously long running. And, mind you, not over. Still growing. Furthermore, this is such a popular manga series that it spawned an animation, and maybe it might be more popular in animation form than in manga. But that animation series started in 1996. It's still running.
Hey.
So it's been running for 30 years. And as you will notice if you ever visit Japan, it's still plastered everywhere. I think there was a Conan movie out the last time I was in Japan. And there are like pop-ups, like cafes, collabo cafes, and then art series, and then posters or cosmetic lines based on Detective Conan. It's everywhere. I think Conan O'Brien has visited the town where the author of this series was born, where they have statues of Conan. So is Conan in front of Conan. So what is Detective Conan? Or Case Closed? It's really kind of really stereotypical murder mystery stuff, but in an odd fashion. So the basic premise is there is this teen detective called Jimmy something. All the names have been strangely translated into English character. They've renamed the characters English first names, sometimes English last names, but it's still set in Japan. So it's this awkward period of what is that, localization that some manga had. So his name is Jimmy Kudo or something like that. I don't remember his name in Japanese. And he is a detective, but he's a teenager, and he is tracking down a case, and then these mysterious men capture him and then give him a drug that turns him into like a 10-year-old boy.
He wasn't a 10-year-old boy before?
No, he was a teenager. He was a
Okay.
teenager
That's
going
not a
to high
huge
school.
leap,
He had a girlfriend, and then he gets given this drug. So he's a teenager in like a 8-year-old or 10-year-old boy's body, and that's why he looks like this little pint-sized pipsqueak or whatever. But he's got the brain of a prodigy teenage kind of Sherlock Holmes. And he gets taken in by this detective who's an adult, and wouldn't you know it, that detective's daughter is Jimmy's girlfriend, Rachel. So he's living with his girlfriend, but he's a boy, and she doesn't know that he is her boyfriend. So really, really convoluted stuff. And I just really don't know why they did the age shifting thing. There's really no reason for it to be there.
If it was an adult to a child, I'd understand. But that's such a small shift. I don't know.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I shifted by 8 years. Wow. It does account for a lot of the physical humor and the kind of the secrets. Basically, every you know what it reminded me of a lot is basically Inspector Gadget. You know, the premise of Inspector Gadget is that Inspector Gadget is a buffoon, but everyone thinks he's brilliant, and it's really his niece, Penny, who's solving every one of the cases, right? And it's essentially just that. Richard Moore is the adult PI who takes Conan in. And Conan, by the way, the reason why he's called Conan is because he makes a pretend name for himself, because he's not Jimmy Kudo. He calls himself Conan, named after Arthur Conan Doyle.
See, I was thinking
author
Conan the Barbarian. Like, what, I'm not seeing the connection.
author of Sherlock Holmes,
Okay.
Arthur Conan Doyle, and last name Edogawa. I think the name is Rampo Edogawa. Is a Japanese murder mystery
Hmm.
author. So it's like mystery author is his name. So everyone calls him Conan, the little kid Conan. And he basically like knocks out the adult detective with this like tranquilizer dart every issue, every single issue, and then has this voice changing modulator provided by his friendly neighbor who's a science master or something like that, who knows of his actual identity. So it's super convoluted, but other than that basic weird setup, the mysteries are pretty straightforward. The mysteries are enclosed in about 3 or 4 chapters. And so there's like a setup chapter and then build up, and then by the third chapter the mystery is done. And then they move on to another mystery. And that happens like every few issues for 30 years. And you might think,
He's
well,
still
this
10
is
years
getting
old.
he's still a
Yeah,
child,
yeah.
yes. And like some stuff happens, like, oh, Rachel finds out that maybe why does Conan know so much about her, and why does he know so much about Jimmy, the still missing teen detective, still missing after these 30 years, is still a teenager too. Anyways, this stuff is, the mysteries are actually good. They're not earth-shattering, but they still will keep you guessing, and they are quality material if you like a never-ending source of mysteries. They are not earth-shattering things. There's a lot of coincidences. There's a lot of red herrings, but, like solid, okay detective fare. Quite a decent amount of kiddie slapstick humor built into it. Quite a lot of ridiculous um, uh, identity covering shenanigans. It is kind of funny watching Detective Richard Moore get knocked out every single episode. He must have brain damage by now after 30 years. It's just what it is it's repetitive comfort food. This show is so old now, it's been running so long that it is retro comfort food for multiple generations of Japanese people and or Western people who have been reading it or watching it as case closed. Strange things though, it is kind of grisly and full of gore for subject matter. The protagonist is a little kid, like he's 8 years old or 9 years old or whatever, and there's like these grisly, bloody murders and murder scenes happening all the time, like decapitations and, love relationships gone wrong and stabbings and all sorts of stuff. And everyone says, "Oh, you're a little kid, you shouldn't be here." But somehow this series is going on and on and on. Kids love it, adults love it in Japan, and I enjoy it. I've read through 7 volumes of it so far. It's really funny reading the author little quip at the end saying, "Hey, we're getting televised. Now I'm busier than ever." And it's just showing a sign of
Is
the
it still the
author
same?
strangling himself.
Is it still the same author and artist working on it today? Like, I'm wondering if it's changed much over the years.
I believe it's the same. Probably like there is a whole, the mangaka, the artist, the illustrator and author, has a team of assistants. Always
Mm.
has had a team of assistants. And I imagine that, things have been taken over and it's been ghost written. I imagine that guy can't have run himself to death. And, things like the summer movies, this happens a lot in Japan, is every series will have a summer movie. So like Dragon Ball will have one, Doraemon will have one, even, Jujutsu Kaisen will have a summer movie or whatever. And Conan often will have a summer movie. And those are not mainline stories. They are invented stories for the sake of having a movie, a feature film. Sometimes they will recycle story material, but those are entirely not written by the author of the manga. But they will, but he still collects royalties, so good for him. Anyways, what can I say about Detective Conan? It's not scintillating stuff, but it's comfort food, it's comforting. And if you like mysteries, they are mildly stimulating mysteries, a little bit of slapstick humor, just fun stuff. Really light popcorn type material. I don't know how long the anime ran, but that's can still be found in English as well through Viz. So you can get that on DVD for presumably a lot of the run. And Vancouver Public Library has like hundreds of volumes of
Wow.
Case Closed, so go get it if you want. It's all there for the reading.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you have any questions or comments on today's episodes, maybe some suggestions of what you'd like to see us cover coming back from the summer, you can contact us at omnigamersclub@gmail.com or at our website, omnigamers.club. You can find me at Blue Sky at Board Game Feast and the Omnigamers Club account there as well.
That's right. We will be continuing to put up episodes on YouTube if you want to listen to us there. And if you want to listen to our earliest episodes, those are available only in audio podcast form. So go find the podcatcher of your choosing. Check out our earliest episodes. Like we said, we don't always have to follow the newest, latest hotness. So maybe there's an old game you want to find out about, check out an episode from our back catalog. And yes, please do send us feedback. We'd love to receive comments, recommendations of games that we should check out, and things you'd like to see for us later in 2026 as well. That really gives us reason to keep putting out these episodes.
We have the Vancouver Game Garden coming up next week. That looking forward to that. We'll try and find a way to report on it, even if it's only on Blue Sky. Maybe I'll try and record something that we'll find a way to get up. Or no promises, but we'll see. And there's a retro game expo coming up the following week after that I've been meaning to get to for a few years. Maybe we'll see if we can coordinate something there.
Yeah, lots of fun events coming up. I know for myself that I will be playing some retro games. I'm still playing Front Mission. I have a bunch of retro hardware that I'm playing with. I have like 3 DSs, 4 DSs, and I have like 3 DSIs. For some reason, I just collecting these. So I'm going to be getting rid of them. I'm not announcing a giveaway or anything like that. I'm just saying that I have my handful of games hardware. I have some new audio hardware I'd like to talk about when we get back. So, and presumably I'll have stuff to talk about from Vietnam and Japan.
So, look forward to hearing that. Well, enjoy your trip, Mark. If we don't talk before that, I mean, we will, but as listeners of the show, and remember to have a balanced diet of games. Thanks for listening.
Have a fun summer.
Bye.
Bye.